Go. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. As always, welcome back to the podcast where we talk about turning your hobby into your jobby. This is Maker That Money live here on the YouTubes. We record just about every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. If you are with us on YouTube this morning, you may notice my trusty sidekick, Mr. Andrew Mayhall, is not with us today, but we did find a decent stand-in, I think, in Mr. Bill Doran from Punished Props. Bill, welcome. How are you today?
Hello, I'm doing great. I've had a fantastic week. This is a pretty wonderful way to round it out. I'm gonna get to work on some projects today, and then I'm gonna go have some beer for this lovely Friday. That's the plan.
Oh man, TJIF, we're lucky to have you with us for it. I'm glad to hear that it's been a good week for you, and we hope to finish strong with you here. So we'll have some fun today. On the pod today, we've got a lot of ground to cover now. Bill's going to introduce himself in a minute, but I'll just lead with. This is a man of many talents, both artistically and entrepreneurially. He's a published author. He's an incredibly accomplished prop builder and dare I say, like, educator, I guess, in some of your content that you've put out in your book and stuff. And
Yeah.
I know you have a background in 3D modeling and design, and we're going to get into all of that. So that's exciting. And I know you've got some new ventures coming up that I'm hoping you can share with us as well. So we're gonna talk about that. But before we do, Bill, we have a tradition here on Maker That Money where we like to share a win for the week because we're very positive here. We're very positive energy. We harness the good energy. We block out the bad. Harness good, block bad. Okay.
I like it.
So now you get to lead. You have the honor of leading
Ooh.
off the positivity in your lead, and then I'm asking all our friends that are with us in the chat to share their wins for the week as well. I'll share one. We'll have a nice kumbaya moment, and then we'll dive in deeper on the pod.
Awesome.
Why don't you go for it?
So this week I've got to work on. I'm making one of the pistols from Starfield, new video game. I've been playing a ton of it. Very into it. So I've got to spend my time in front of my computer making a 3D model. I'm going to 3D print it. And that's like my happy place. So much of what we do for work during the day, we're filming, and I can't listen to music.
Oh,
But when I'm 3D modeling, I'm not recording. So I can put on some ska, some third wave ska, some Less Than Jake,
yeah.
some Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, some
Oh man.
Real Big Fish, which, by the way, in college, I was in a Real Big Fish cover band.
No way. You
Yep.
were. That's amazing. What did you play?
Uh, I played guitar and I sang.
Oh my gosh, I would
I
have
was
loved
bad
to.
at both of them. What do you
Is
do in
there
college?
video somewhere in the vault? There's got to be some footage of that.
There's audio. We recorded from the audience. My wife Brittany recorded with a high 8 video camera. I'd lost the video, but I still have the audio of
Okay.
us playing a gig in Oneonta, New York in 2005. And they paid us in beer, and they paid us before we played. So
Oh, that's putting a
bit
lot
of
of
a mess,
faith. All right.
but it was a lot of fun. So anyway, I got to spend like the last 3 days just 3D modeling, noodling out. I could even share a picture of it.
Oh yeah, show us
Noodling
what you
out
got.
this project and just listening to music, which I don't usually get to do all the time. I'm calling that a big win. This is the Rattler from
Oh, Starfield.
Starfield,
Yeah. So if you're
and
listening back to the pod, guys, just really quick, he just described it. It's the Rattler gun from Starfield, and it looks absolutely incredible. I'll just tell you this right now. You need to go to Bill's website. It's punishprops.com. And he has an incredible array of just amazing stuff. So you can get a sense of like what he was showing us here. He's got other prop weapons and all kinds of other stuff. And we'll dive in on that in a second. Looks like we had a little blip. We lost you for a second, but you're coming back. So I don't know. Maybe something going on in the prop dungeon with the Wi-Fi's. Who knows?
yeah.
We're gonna muscle through that. We do the best we can here. Share
Nice.
in the chat, guys, if you have a good win for us, and I'll highlight it. Just really quick, just say hi to some good friends here. Josh Manley from CAD Class, Grant from 3 Day Musketeers. Good to see you. Mike from Never Let the Machines Win. George White, good to see you again, my friend. Awesome having you guys all here. I will share my win. Um, I had a great week of just reconnecting with some old friends. And I always feel like I do a poor job of staying in touch with a lot of these little people I've known 20, 25 years, from back in high school, college days and stuff like that. And so, every once in a while I'll get on myself where I'm like, I'll look through the contact list and be like, I haven't talked to him in a while. And so I reached out, and it's just really nice because most of my friends are just so fantastic about just picking up wherever we left off. And that was my happy place.
That's
So
great.
wherever you guys happy places, I love connecting people. I love talking to people, sharing stuff. And I know we don't get to do nearly enough of that in this day and age, especially like virtually and all that stuff. So sometimes picking up the phone is good if you can't do a face to face. I encourage you, everybody, call your mom, call your dad, call your
Hmm.
friends. Just connect with people. That's always a good
Yeah,
message. Yeah.
that's terrific.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's dive in a little bit. Why don't you just give I hesitate to say brief because there's just so much there, but like an overview of your professional life and kind of how you got into, running your own business and what the venture has
Sure.
evolved to be over the years.
Oh yeah, and it has definitely evolved. If there's one thing any budding entrepreneurs can take from this conversation today, is that thing you today is going to be different 10 years now, and it's indistinguishable from what it was when I started.
Okay.
So I got into cosplay in like 2010, and uh, after a couple of years, I started taking commissions from the internet. People liked the things I was making, props and stuff. So that people reached out and said, "Hey, can you make me the thing? And I'll give you money for it." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Business plan formed."
There it is. How hard can it be?
I know I can do this.
Yeah.
Um, so I did that in 2012. I quit my job. I worked at Microsoft for a while. I did video publishing there, which is funny enough, a lot of what I do now for my current job, a lot of video publishing.
Okay.
Um, so that's what it started as. People would reach out and say, "I want a costume, I want a prop. Here's how much I'll pay for it." And I did that for a while. But a few things I learned: making costumes for people over the internet, very difficult, hard to size them, hard to money to cover what it costs to make a bespoke costume. So I quickly transitioned to just making props for people, hence the punished props.
Who's being punished? You or the
That's right.
customer? Both?
The props are, you'll see, they're
the
all they're
the
all
props
in a
themselves.
state of disarray. Uh,
We call that seasoning, weathering, right? Seasoning or whatever.
weathering,
Yeah, yeah.
lots of weathering.
Lots of weathering.
Um, so the thing with hand props is one size fits all. So that became a lot easier. So like this is something
Hmm.
from Mass Effect. I made a silicone mold of that, and I would cast copies to, and that turns out way easier. Like you make the one, then you make the mold, and then you can just make copies really quickly and sell the copies. And that was my bread and butter for a while. Selling from this was before 3D printing too. That was made by hand with hand tools and stuff.
There was stuff before 3D printing, Bill? That's
Weird,
incredible.
right?
Yeah.
Weird.
Who knew?
Everything else is here is 3D printed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's not true. We got foam. We got this was handmade. This was handmade.
Oh,
That
you
was
are
handmade.
a master of foam too, and I'm sure we'll get into more on
True.
that. Yeah.
We will. It transitioned into that, and then I got into making tutorials. So people started asking how I made this stuff. I followed a lot of other people that were sharing their techniques on the Replica Prop Forum or on their own website. So I started my own website where I was sharing my builds, and that just started to snowball. I have a background in video production anyway,
Okay.
so I started filming my YouTube videos, and that kind of took off. And by 2015, I think. That's when Brittany quit her job.
Okay.
Brittany's my wife and my partner and everything.
Yeah.
She quit her job, and we started producing our books. And I believe I have one. Oh,
Oh,
right
oh,
here.
oh, he just happens to have it, and it's called
How
Foam
convenient.
Smith, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, this is the stunt book. Whenever I need to like take photos of a book uh, or a video, like we did a video where I had to drop this to make it look cool in slow motion. This
Okay.
is the stunt book. So
So
this
it
is a
gets punished as well then.
it is very much punished.
Yeah.
So we started making props and costumes out of EVA foam, like this fella right here.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book about it, and this is the first one, and we've since written two more.
Okay.
I do all the writing and photos. Brittany does all the layout and editing and everything, and they look great because Britt's awesome.
It really
Uh,
does look great. And yes, I can attest Britt is awesome. I wish she was with
oh
us
yeah.
today, but I understand. It's you got to divide and conquer. We're going to get into that partnership in a little bit
Uh huh.
too. Because being married
Yep.
to your business partner, there's got to be some stuff there to talk about.
That's a whole thing, and we work great together. And it's not for everyone, but Brittany and I are a dynamic duo.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So
All right, more history.
So by then, I think I took my last commission in 2014. Uh,
Okay.
and every once in a while, I'll do a job for someone. If a friend reaches out, if Adam Savage reaches out, I'll work for Adam. He's a
Sure.
great client.
You know, when Adam calls, you pick up the phone, right? Yeah.
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 But for the most part, we transitioned into doing educational stuff. So we make our videos. The videos are free on YouTube. They're supported by Patreon and YouTube memberships, but they're also a content marketing platform for our books and other products that we have on our website.
Yeah.
The website, by the way, punishprops.com. If you go under the video section, there is a section called Business Talk. So a lot of what I've learned about running a business, I've shared there, including books that I recommend and any videos or podcasts I've done that cover the subject. So if anyone wants to know what I know about running a business, I'm all on the website.
That's actually a real. I was not aware of that. I feel I should have done some better homework ahead of this. But two, that is a very unique offering because I know there's just a lot of people that are aspiring to do this. I mean, we've seen you and I run in a lot of the same crowds, and we see online just these up and coming people and the talent that is out there in the next generation, but they are very hungry and eager to learn, which is part of what this podcast is about. And so kudos to you for actually realizing the demand for that and laying that out, because
Yeah, thank you.
it's one of those things where I feel like a lot of people either I don't know, they either want to keep it close to the vest, or they don't feel like they have a lot to share there, or maybe they're just like all of us feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome, where they're like, I'm figuring it out as we're all figuring it out as we go.
Oh yeah.
So that's really cool. I do have a link to the website in the description, so if you're listening back after the fact, please go check them out. Massive resource on multiple fronts, and an inspiring a duo that Bill and Britt both are.
Yeah.
Carry on.
One quick recommendation: if there's only one thing you take from that, the list, the E-Myth Revisited, why most small businesses don't work and what to do about it. Go read that book. If you're starting a business, go read that book. That's all. I don't have to go into it any further. They do a great job of explaiing it.
I think you're like the third person to bring that book up to me in the last like 6 months. I've heard just and I have yet to. I have it in my Audible, and I haven't gone through it yet. So maybe I need to move it up in the list, because I've got I love audiobooks specifically because I can multitask while I'm listening. That's my
I've done all of those as audiobooks, I believe.
yeah. Very good. And so in
You
looking,
go for a workout.
yeah. Right. Nothing like getting all swole and listening to good business tips at the same time. It just
That's
gets the
right.
blood pumping, at least for me. But hey, maybe I'm biased. I do a entrepreneurial podcast. So okay, so where are we in the timeline here? We've gotten up to, you're not taking commissions anymore except for Adam Savage, and 2015. Okay, so we got a couple more years to go.
Yeah. So Britt, this was 8 years ago now. Britt joined the team, so we've been fully like Punished Props pays all the bills for the last 8 years, and we're not like ultra wealthy or anything. not by Seattle standards
He
at
lies.
least.
He lives in a. I've
But
been to
we're
his house.
comfortable. Like
He lives in a glass castle. Yeah, no, it's amazing. And you're in such a
it's
great
actually
spot.
made of foam. The
The whole
walls.
house is made of foam, guys. You're living the actual dream.
Uh,
Yeah.
so we've been making it work. It's not without its pitfalls or challenges, but we've been making it work. And another sort of turning point for me. I think it was 2013. I sat down with my friend Mark and Nicole Spagnola from the Wood Whisperer. If anyone follows, gave me a list like, here's a bunch of stuff you need to do for your business. Like, you need to have your own website. You got to start a mailing list.
Yeah.
It was just a checklist of all these things to do, and I was like, "You got it, Nicole." And I went and I did all that. Actually, one thing I remember, I asked Mark. I said, "Mark, how do you pick which projects to film?" And he said, "I film all of them." And I said, "Very well, I will do that too." And now we have over 700 videos on our YouTube channel.
Incredible. Yeah, I was gonna say you're a prolific content creator, and but I'm sure over time you start to learn, maybe be more selective, or it's you can always
Mhm.
record stuff and not publish, right? But better to do that than to say not have
Sure.
the recording at all, I guess.
Yeah, it's better to have the footage,
Yeah, and not
than
need
to
it.
not.
Yeah,
It's
need it,
always
not
better
have
to
it.
have too much footage. Trust me.
See,
So yeah, there was a sort of a turning point talking to Mark and Nicole, and part of the reason why I share all that stuff on my website is because I have gleaned that information from other people, and I want to pass it on.
hmm,
And the other thing I want to remind people is, if you get good advice from people and you follow through with it and it works, well, tell them. That makes them feel amazing.
yeah,
Because I've gone and passed on information to other people who, and a handful of them have run with it, and it feels so good when they say, "Hey, I gave that a shot and it worked. Thanks so much." So it goes both, like the mutual respect thing goes both
for
ways. So
sure.
yeah. So thank you, Mark and Nicole, for listening.
Yeah, I'm sure they regularly tune in, and I'm sure they're appreciative to hear that. Uh, okay, that's awesome, and it's good to hear, and it's like a great reminder in general to just be appreciative. We're all built on the shoulders of giants to some extent, and it's always nice to hear about what works. And then, if somebody gives you advice and it doesn't work, that's when you follow mom's rules. If you don't have something nice to say, you don't say it at all, I suppose. I don't know. Hey, that was
That's true.
terrible
That's
advice.
true. Never talking to you
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah. Unsubscribe.
so
Uh,
um,
okay.
So yeah, we had YouTube, we had a podcast for a while. We don't do that anymore, but it was an excuse for me to bring a friend in once a week. I was for a long time working in the basement by myself. I'm very social, so I was lonely, and I decided to start a podcast so that I could con a friend into come hanging out for an hour every week.
I mean, why do you
We
think I'd
did,
do it? Yeah.
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
So yeah, we did that for
okay.
we did a couple hundred of those. They're
Oh
all
wow.
on YouTube if you want to go watch them. They're called Prop Live.
Yeah.
We started our Patreon to support all of that, including our videos. Um, we started doing the books. You know what's funny? I started selling ebooks on my website because the cost was so low. It doesn't cost anything to fulfill an ebook.
Yeah.
Just PDFs. People buy it on our website and it gets emailed to them. You know what people were doing? They were printing them and binding them themselves so that they could have a copy in the shop.
That's
That,
such a great
that's
thing to hear.
people
So,
when
printing
Britt
out
started.
yeah.
She turned it into a print book. Like, this was an ebook first, but her first job when she started here full time was to do the print book, and now we have 3 of them.
My goodness, maybe I should just ask you what you haven't done instead of what you have, because like you really have just been through a lot of it. This is great, and we're not even through it yet. So let's go.
Sure. We publish those ourselves. Britt does all the layout. I do all the photo and text. We pay to have them printed. So the first one we did like a pre-order, so we get a little money ahead of time to go pay to get them printed. But we get them done 1,000 copies at a time, which is it's cheaper per unit, but you got to cough up like 12 grand
Yeah.
to get that run done, and so that's what we do.
Yeah.
And we keep an inventory. We have a storage unit where we keep all of our book inventory,
Hmm.
and while it does cost a lot more upfront to do all that, we get all the proceeds.
Sure.
Um, when you go through a publisher, there's a lot of good reasons to go through a publisher, but they get most of that margin.
Yeah.
When we do it our way, we have to pay to get it printed, with the store it and everything, but the markup is way better to do it ourselves.
Okay.
Excuse me, so enough stuff. So again, we use those which are free to do content marketing to sell the books. And since then, we've added other products, like we have our own Punished Props branded snap blade knives that you use for everything, including foam making.
I've got mine right over
You
there.
got one?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that was like the
So we
first
figured
thing
out.
that we got to your house and was like, okay, everybody get your razor, like all the goodies came out. Yeah.
we got
Yeah.
right here. We've got replacement blades, which is
Yeah.
great for me because I use these all the time, and I think I have about 20,000 of these
I
left.
was gonna say
So
you must
I have a
burn through
lifetime
those though.
supply.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we've tinkered with things like that. We've tried merch. Merch didn't really work well for us,
No?
but that's fine. It does okay. That's the sort of thing we go through. We wanted to. We bought a thing for making our own T-shirts. What do you
Mm.
call one of those things? A
The
silk screening thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Not like a
And
thermal press, like the
oh yeah,
legit silk screen machine. Okay.
and turns out that's way too much to do ourselves. We have videos to make and edit. So we go through like Printful or one of those other companies to do it. And again, they take most of the margin there, and we sell a few shirts every week, but nothing like our books or our knives. So you tinker, you experiment with different products, see what works, see what doesn't work. And we found what works for us over many years of experimentation.
You are
People want
your
books.
you are your own guinea pig in business, and honestly, I think it's a fantastic
Mhm.
strategy. We live in an interesting time where we can do trial and error like that to and like you said, like sometimes the costs of it can be more, and you learn some lessons and like that did not pan out. But sometimes you find what hooks, and then you can just work on scaling that, and I think that's a perfectly valid business strategy. And hopefully you're
Yep.
learning what's bringing you joy and what's not bringing you joy along the way too, and not letting yourself get wrapped up in the grind of something that's just not doing it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, when I quit my job, I gave myself one rule. That rule was if I'm not having fun, then I might as well go back to my day job, because I had a good job. I had a great job that
Yeah.
paid well and was
Yeah.
very secure.
Yeah.
I was giving that up,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a very fun job. So if this new job stops being fun, I might as well go back to that other one. So that that's a huge guiding factor. Like I said, I got to spend the last 3 days 3D modeling in my happy place.
Yeah.
Like, so I want to be able to find a way to be able to do that as much as possible, as opposed to other parts. There are certain parts of running a business that you just gotta do that are kind of boring and dumb. That's one thing, but you don't want to find yourself in a situation where every day you're getting up doing something you don't enjoy just because it pays the bills. We've been
Absolutely.
able to mostly maintain that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think finding that right balance, it just takes some time, and it just takes some putting some hours in, but it's what you just said, something that just sounds like so just unbelievably obvious, but really not, because I've been going through a lot of that in my own life. I'd be like, man, I am grinding hard here and I'm not enjoying this at all. Like, why, why am I putting myself through this? And we keep telling ourselves for the promise, for the independence. I mean, I remind myself, it's like it still beats the heck out of having to go report to somebody else, and
Yeah, that's true.
all of that. But for the longest time, with this venture and the one before it, I think I always had it in the back of my head that it was just like, well, like hopefully the phone keeps ringing, the orders keep coming in, and if not, I'll just go get a job again. How long do you think it took for you to like really accept the fact that you were like this is gonna work? Like, did you have these moments where you're just like, this might not work, and I'll just get a job again in a year?
Um, let's see. So the first year we really made decent money, I think, was 2016. Once
Okay.
we started, so like 4 years after quitting my job, before I thought, hey, this is working.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, 2016 was probably when it really kicked off. You know what happened during that year is during the time I had a little bit of credit card debt from running the business.
Sure.
I had student loans, and during that year, I was able to pay all of that off with money in a car as well, a car loan.
Mm.
I paid all of that off during 2016 with money I made with my prop making. Um, and then everything I made after that was gravy. I just was just money in the bank, and my savings started. I looked at that and I was like, "Hold this sec, hold on." I didn't even recognize it happening until I had a chunk of money saved up. I was like, "This is working."
What a great feeling that is.
Yeah,
I think that 3 to 4
yeah.
year mark was very similar for me. But prior to opening Repkord up, I was a web developer, a freelance web developer, totally different, service trade and just building websites for other people and all that stuff. But I fell into that kind of by accident as like something I was doing when I got laid off from my job before that. And I was just thinking like, oh, this is just gonna, make some money while I'm looking for another job. And, the phone just kind of kept ringing. Before I knew it, I was like 3 years in and I'm like, I guess this is my job now. But for some
Yeah.
reason it doesn't always, I didn't do the business plan either. I didn't do, any of that stuff. And so a lot of times with these things, I feel like I'm playing catch up on a lot of the fundamental administrative and things that I just like,
Mhm.
I'll figure it out later. And then before you know it, it's like, 3 years in. So did you come across any of that stuff where you probably put off, finding an accountant or doing any
Oh
of this
yeah.
stuff like until, much longer than you probably should have? Yeah.
Yeah, I found that it was really easy to put that stuff off when I wasn't making any money.
Sure.
Like, I don't need an accountant. There's
There's
no
no money.
money.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, that the administrative stuff is the stuff I struggle with the most. Getting myself to do that sort of thing. I put it all off until the last minute. That's my Achilles heel. I get it done, but it is the least fun part of what I do.
Well, I feel that more than you know, my friend. And so proceeding on with your story, are we to the point yet where you got the big shop and you started, doing like
Not
physical?
quite.
Oh, okay. I don't want to. Okay.
That was 2018. But before that, I wanted to talk a little bit about 3D printing, something we're both passionate about.
Yes. Any
Because
chance we can.
for a long time, the prop community was kind of hesitant about getting into 3D printing,
Hmm.
and w- we decided to start it because I have a background in 3D modeling, and but I was worried that people were gonna be pushed back against it a little bit.
Okay.
Um, so we actually had a partnership with Autodesk to show off some of their software, and I did a series on 3D modeling, but we doubled up the content. So I would do like my normal builds,
Hmm.
normal traditional prop making, and also that week I would do a 3D modeling, 3D printing video. We got the Dremel Idea Builder we had, which was a really terrific machine. Um, but on top of that, I also put out some educational content, some premium educational content. So I use 2D software called Inkscape all the time. It's free. It's for doing 2D patterns and vectors and all that.
Uh-huh.
So I made a video course, like a premium video course that we sell on our website on everything I know about Inkscape.
Okay.
Um, and since then, we've done a few more things like that, including I have one on Fusion 360 now. So I use Fusion 360 for all my 3D modeling. It's what I've been using this week. So I made a short 4-hour video course on just the basics of what I need to do to model 3D props for printing.
Okay.
So that's another sort of facet of what we do. We do free videos on YouTube, but we've dipped our toe into doing premium videos that people have to pay for, and it's filmed very differently. It's filmed more like an actual instructional course, but the response from that has been really great as well. So yeah, like you said, we're spreading out. We try a lot of different things, and it's not that I'm looking for something that's going to be the new thing I do all the time. It's more just like it's diversifying your products. You have a bunch of different products that you can push. So now, so I'm building this prop from Starfield,
Yeah.
and the video on YouTube is not a 3D modeling tutorial. I don't want to make 3D modeling tutorial. It's really painful to edit yourself 3D modeling. At least that's what I find.
It's tough. Yeah.
So in the video, I say, hey, I'm gonna tell you some of the concepts of the 3D modeling. But if you want a deep dive, you can go buy the Fusion course. So I
Oh,
find that's a really great way to market
we have our
that. Uh-oh.
we have our first call, Bill.
Oh my goodness.
You ready to take a call?
I am.
All right, here we go. Let's see if the system still works. Let's see. Greetings, caller. You're on the air with Pooch and Bill Doran of Punished Props. Can you hear us? Let's see.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if we lost him. I don't know if he's muted. He is supposedly piped through. Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. I think I know exactly what the problem might be. I was messing with. Let me see if I can do this on the fly, guys. Bear with me here just a second here, because I think, and hold on. If let's see here, we need that input. Where is the guest caller feed? I might have screwed something up here in the sense that I rebuilt the layout so that just Bill and I could do the split here, and I think I might have forgotten to pull in the audio feed from the calls. Audio input, add existing. We have USB. He should be feeding on the USB. I don't know. Let's try unmuting this. He's not muted. And oh, we're not getting any audio from him. Well, that was a big womp womp womp. We're gonna have to plug on. I apologize. I don't know if it's on my end or yours. It was Daryl from Off Earth 3D, so maybe we can get him to at least hit us in the chat if he's got some questions or something like that, and then we'll figure out for our next one what's happening here.
I just saw Daryl at Dragon Con in Atlanta.
Okay, so let's see. Last time I saw him was, I think, Emerald City, when I saw you, one of the last couple times I saw you. Very talented guy. If you guys aren't following Off Earth 3D, you guys need to go check out his stuff. He is incredible. He's been doing a lot of stuff around Halo content and just other, builds in general, but super talented guy. And yeah,
he just finished the Starfield helmet. I just saw this morning. Very exciting.
Yeah, I know how much you're into that too, and I think you were kind of eyeballing some, maybe like noodling some ideas on that front, so we can talk about that. Sorry, Daryl, I don't know what's going on with the call-in right now, so technical difficulties. There we go. This is what happens when we just don't test our stuff enough, or we change things around. But live performance for you. All right, Bill. So you were talking. You were talking about the educational content, recording yourself on doing Fusion, doing like content, that being a difficult thing to present. I did have a question for you around that, in the sense that I know that we see a lot of people coming up with Fusion content, and I think that Autodesk is, like, they kind of do their own thing, but they seem to be open to the idea of like collaborating. And so I'll see stuff, but if right now it's interesting because it feels a little discontinuous, in the sense that it's like the software is almost updating so fast that the content doesn't keep up with it. When you're trying to learn a platform like this, and you go to somewhere like YouTube and you look for those kinds of resources, it can be frustrating when, like, the video you're pulling up is 6 months old, but the UI doesn't even look the same. And, I don't know what that does for the learning process. Did you learn? I mean, I know you're more like old school taught. You said you studied this in school, but do you like to learn in that fashion? Do you have any feels around like that type of content and why it doesn't work or why it might work?
I do when I'm 3D modeling in Fusion, at least once a day, I'm looking up something on YouTube. I'll go to YouTube, Fusion 360. How do I get this? My loft isn't working. What's wrong?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I look that stuff all up all myself, learning. But yeah, like Blur's a great example. A few years ago, they went through a major overhaul, especially in their UI. So a lot of that old content, instructional content, is not as useful anymore, and that's just kind of part of the game.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, I've found though, because I've used when I was in school, I learned Maya. I've used Blender. I've used 3D Studio Max,
Yeah.
and then a bunch of different CAD platforms. Um, the concepts don't change very much. The
Yeah.
operations, um, learning what one software calls that thing that you use, it's the Rumpelstiltskin principle. Once
Okay.
you learn the name, then
Yeah.
you can master the thing. So I found that traveling between those different softwares, once you understand the concept, uh, is really useful. So, like in the Fusion 360 course that I do, I try and just really cover the concepts of what it is you're trying to do. Excuse me. Drawing a two-dimensional sketch and then extruding it, like that operation hasn't changed in decades. That's a pretty common concept that you can do in Fusion or Onshape or Inventor or any of those programs there. That's kind of like in the YouTube video I'm filming for this. I want people to understand the sort of the mindset you want to be in when you're 3D modeling something. So for this gun that I'm making, I modeled half of it and I'm going to mirror it because it's the same. Uh, and that's just a good thing to know no matter what you're 3D modeling or what software you're
Sure.
working on.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to be nimble because they'll change where things are, they'll change what things are called. Sometimes I may have to at some point go in and do a digital remaster of my Fusion 360 course and update some of the information in it.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess there's a reason why textbooks will do like revisions and changes and stuff over the years. So
Mhm.
I got a message from Daryl. He's just he's curious about advice for scaling, specifically from going from that hobby level to more official business stuff. Now, I know we haven't quite gotten through your complete arc here, so I don't know if we'd be better off like kind of going, because like I said, I think you've kind of like you've gone up and you've gone back, and there's been some experimentation and all of that stuff. And so scaling for you might look different from what, what you would have recommended back in 2018, 2019 may not be what you do now. Lot there. What do you think?
Yeah. So when it comes to deciding if you have a day job and you have this hobby that's sort of taking off, that you're considering turning into a job, um, it's there's no like hard and fast rule on like when to pull the trigger or if ever to pull the trigger. Sometimes keeping your day job and just having this thing on the side that kind of makes you a little money is better for a lot of people. What I would say is don't be afraid necessarily to take the plunge, but also don't be afraid to go back to the way things were. That's fine. No one's going to think less of you. It's very hard to do. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very personal thing to do.
Mm.
I'll tell you what how I arrived at that decision.
Okay.
Um, the first thing and most important thing is I had the support of my partner and wife, Brittany. She was pushing me to give it a go. I had a backlog of commissions. I had 6 months of commissions lined up, so I had work in the pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have enough time to do it all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So gave me a little bit of a push. Have kids. I didn't have a like I didn't have a lot of um, uh, what would you call it? I didn't have a
Dependence.
ton of liability.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Yeah.
are a liability, I will tell you.
So right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I could afford to take that risk for a couple of years.
Okay.
Brittany still had her job, so we had insurance and we had a second income. So these were all factors that told me let's give it a shot. But also, and this is something I didn't think of at the time. Consider an exit strategy. Consider what it would take
Ah.
if you had to go back to a job. Um, you don't want to be in a position where you like took a bunch of orders
Mm-hmm.
and people paid for them, and you realize that you're not making any money on these orders.
Yeah.
But you got to fulfill them. Like you got so you're like, oh, I have to spend the next year fulfilling these orders that aren't making me any money.
Yeah.
So be wary of how much of what you commit to as
Yeah.
well. So, for example, in 2013, we did a Kickstarter. I designed my own space blaster. I don't even have one here. I made so many of them. I'm kind of sick of them.
Yeah.
I designed a space blaster. It was very ambitious. It was 13 pieces. I was making molds of molds of molds. I hired people to cast the molds. Um, the Kickstarter was successful. We made like $30,000,
Okay.
and I spent every last penny of that casting those things. And I ended up breaking even, which was actually a kind of a happy ending. That was
At least you
it
didn't
was
lose
so much
money.
fun.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
And you
we
built
didn't
some
lose.
reputation and some stuff. So there's like
Sure.
value, but it's not necessarily always cash value, and that's not
Yeah,
that's not
but
good
I was at a
consolation.
point where I was like realizing these weren't making any money, and I still had like 100 of these things to make.
Yeah.
And we just had to take it on the chin and
Yeah.
finish looking at consider having some exit strategy as well.
I really like that actually. Well, I advocate more for sustainability.
And again, like
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
hmm?
I
I was just drinking my coffee.
yeah. No, I was gonna say I think that's a really powerful message and one to think about. Sustainability, digestible chunks. Just don't like bury yourself in things and especially don't overcommit to things where you don't actually know. I mean, you're describing the common thread between every um maker prop builder that I've heard stories like this from. In fact, I was just listening to something you talked about Adam Savage earlier, and he was sharing. I really enjoy some of the little Q&A sessions he does out of his workshop,
Yeah.
because he's just got such great little tasty morsel
Oh
nuggets
yeah.
in there of his time in the early 90s getting his start before pre-Mythbusters and all that stuff. But he was talking about the exact same thing, where it's just like grossly underbid, wasn't charging nearly enough, wasn't making money, and like how to manage that client. Because I think the common thread that I see with a lot of makers is like, we're not, and this is stereotypically speaking, I'm not saying everybody, but the sales process of the whole thing is like the least glamour. Like, we don't want to sell, we don't want to negotiate, we don't want to deal with like a lot of that stuff. We just want to make cool shit, we always say, right?
That's right.
And so I think a lot of times we'll gloss over the devil in the details of like, what is the scope? What am I going to get paid? What happens if there's a scope overrun or change orders or all the things that inevitably happen when you deal with commission work? And how do I deal with it? Because that's the stuff that'll it's just soul sucking sometimes, right? And you're just like,
Yeah.
this is not fun anymore.
So
what advice do you have in
actually, I'll
that?
jump ahead real quick.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna jump ahead because the topic is perfect. Brittany and I are building a new endeavor right now, a 3D printing endeavor, and so we're building a new business from the ground up.
Okay.
Knowing what I know now, which is a very different position than when I started this
You don't
dog and
even let
pony
me get
show
to the
here.
question, Bill, but that's fine. How would you do it differently if knowing what you know now? Good, go.
So I'm starting this new thing, thinking in my head, what happens when I don't want to do this anymore, right?
Okay.
So we're going to be 3D modeling stuff for other people to print, fun, neat projects for people to print.
Yep.
And a huge question is, how much do I want to commit to?
Uh-huh.
Right? How much work do I want to commit to? I'm still going to do this job. This is a new thing I'm adding.
Yeah.
So, for example, we want to deliver. My first thought was like, Brittany and I will each 3D model a kit per month. So we'll have 2 kits per month.
Okay.
And then I thought, well, what if we can one per month, and then with the potential to add a second one later?
Mm-hmm.
It's way easier to add more stuff, pull it away. When you take stuff away from people, they get upset.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we're considering a subscription model. So we want this to be an ongoing thing. We make a thing, we get paid per month, sort of thing.
Right.
But we also want to run a website where people can buy these things a la carte. And the idea is when I get sick of doing this every month, which is might have, or if I get distracted, or if there's a new thing I want to do,
Yeah.
I can turn off the subscription thing, and I have this store that can is. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's we're building this new thing with an exit strategy in mind. What happens when this isn't working or we don't want to do it anymore? So yeah, there's my advice to Daryl.
I like that. I guess I would push back just slightly on you and say, is that a luxury of success to some extent, right? Because we don't all have the choice to just pick and choose in the same way, having been there. So, you know, sustainability as a choice once you're in it for 10 plus years versus starting from nothing, you know.
Sure, I can see that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Just trying to call BS or anything. I'm just saying,
absolutely.
that's an interesting thing. I mean, there is no shortcut to having to go through your grind. Everybody's going to have to pay some dues.
Yep.
And everybody has different amount of resources available, but the wisdom is there and it is good. And if you have that mentality in mind, now what you can afford to, be able to not do is going to vary as you have more options. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's actually something I found is really useful. Is you want to work your way into a position where you can afford to be. And started, you don't necessarily have that
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
uh, that luxury to get there.
yeah. Yeah, I remember that feeling from the web development days too. It's like you earn the right to say no. You earn you kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah,
at some point you're just trying to make a name for yourself. You need that portfolio. You need to build the portfolio, do the portfolio pieces and all that stuff. I don't know. Maybe sometimes I would argue. Let me ask you this because you probably have some feels on it. I think we like to take the work to build up the portfolio originally. We want that experience and all that stuff. You definitely need experience working with a customer and stuff. But are there times where sometimes you might be better off just like doing some passion projects for your portfolio because like you're not beholden to anything and that maybe it can be more efficient because you're not dealing with scope creep and all that stuff. So maybe a
yeah.
combination of those things. And then you can inject some of the things that you get to choose and are bringing you joy, not necessarily like that you had to do to get paid.
Sure, yeah, and it's actually one of the reasons I like the way we do our YouTube channel. Because people will send me a message and they'll say, "Hey, can you make something from Warhammer?" And I get to say, "No, I don't play Warhammer. I just make stuff that I want."
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Yeah.
the product is the instructional video. The product is you get to learn no matter what I'm making, you'll still learn something that you could use on your own thing.
Right.
But everything you see behind me is a passion project. It was no the rose quartz sword from Steven Universe, but I think that's one of the best TV shows ever made. So that's what I decided I wanted to make. Um,
Amazing.
and it's cool because so sometimes I'll make stuff because it's like new or neat.
Uh-huh.
I made some Fortnite stuff even though I don't play Fortnite. But all the type stuff I do, I try to make sure it's something that I'm deeply invested in. I find that makes the videos that you're making.
Mm.
And all of the stuff I make gets to be a part of my portfolio, which is really cool.
Yeah.
A lot of times, though, so like I was saying before, I molded and cast a lot of Mass Effect stuff. Now, fortunately, I love Mass Effect,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really into that. But that was how I earned a living. I wasn't excited. I made one of these, and that was great.
Yeah.
But I made money by casting copies of it.
Yeah.
That wasn't necessarily fun. I wasn't passionate about making copies of a thing, but that's how I made my money. And then every once in a while, I would have to go, all right, let's make a new Mass Effect blaster. I have one right here. Let's make my other favorite Mass Effect blaster.
Ooh.
And that's kind of a
The
way of
M5.
telling the world at large, that's like, I want to make more of these. So
Yeah.
does anyone want one of these? I'm excited about this.
Who else
Put it
is
in my
excited about
portfolio.
this? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because you can find yourself in a position where you're just making copies of a thing that you're not even that interested in.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, you have to go. All right, hold off, hold the orders for a second. I'm going to go make something I'm really excited about. For myself, it just feels good to do it, but
Uh-huh.
it's also a way of telling the world, like, hey, does anyone want one of these?
So there's a question or comment from Alex Gibson in the chat. He says he's in a situation where he's doing okay, but working way too many hours to be sustainable. He needs to hire some staff so that the business can keep rolling, so that when he stops or takes a break, goes on holiday, I'm sure, any of that stuff, if he wants to improve things. And he feels like that's the only way he's going to be able to retire. So he wants to start building toward that now. Any experience with that? Like, any fear around like right now, if you and Britt are not, I mean, you guys are the business, right? So if you don't do it, the
Yep, yep,
operations are ceased, right? Or they are paused
yeah.
at least.
So a couple of things. This is great. We can talk about this for a while. But a couple of things. One, anything you can do, any revenue that you can get that is passive is huge. So for
Passive
us, we
income.
started with our ebooks.
Okay.
There, you go to our website, you buy a PDF, it gets emailed right to you. End of transaction. I don't have to lift a finger. Um, if I get, you know, knocked out for a month, that still works. That's still churning. That still makes us money.
Right.
Our print books, Brittany does the fulfillment on those. So if we both get knocked out, which would be awful.
Yeah.
That would suck. We wouldn't have anyone to fulfill those orders for us.
Mm.
We'd probably hire a friend to come in and do that, like once a week. Come in, fulfill all the orders,
Yeah.
send them out.
Yeah.
But the digital stuff that's passive stuff that you can having to lift a finger, that is a huge part of making.
That's
So that can be churning, making you money while you're building the next prototype or filming the next video or whatever it is. Uh, and then the thing that I learned is that hiring people can be really super helpful,
mm-hmm.
but also once you have employees, managing those employees is a part of your job.
Yeah.
And it turns out I'm not interested in doing that. It's not fun for me. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. And when we had employees for 3 or 4 years, it was one of those things I put off until the last minute. And unfortunately, when you do that, if I do that with my taxes, nobody gets upset with me, right? So long as it
Right.
gets done by the end. But
Right.
if you put off people, they
You-
get a little bummed,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so just keep that in mind. If you're going to hire someone, managing those people, that means not just sure they have work or anything, but dealing with people problems. And every people has a problem. You're never going to avoid that. That becomes a part of your job, and just make sure that's something that you're willing to put the time in to do. Otherwise, having employees can be as much of a headache as you're hoping it would solve.
Yeah. That is, man, you're just cranking out the wisdom. I mean, it resonates so well because it's like managing people seems like one of those things. Just like I can, yeah. How hard can it be? It's like I'm a sociable person. You're a sociable person. Like we know how to deal with people. We know how to talk to people. But the problem is in the context of business, um, everything's out the window in terms of like these are not like you're. I don't say you're not your friend because like a lot of times you develop relationships, like substantial relationships with these people, but there are people that you can have a great friendship with that would be terrible employees, and vice versa. That might be a great employee that you're not really interested in pursuing outside friendship with. So you know the challenge is that they're always the X factor. They're the most unpredictable element of what you do, and potentially the most expensive. The payroll
Yeah,
is uh, is
easily the most
is
expensive.
easily the most expensive thing, right? And so here you go. What percentage of your cost is tied up in this resource that can potentially be gone in two weeks if you're lucky, if they don't just, if it's not something crazy. But life happens. People move, they may be a great employee for years and years and years, and then they some medical issue happens, something happens in the family, addiction, any number of things. And that's a massive threat to operations a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So you know, it's not to say that it can't be done, and it is potentially an important thing for growth of certain types of business. But I would say the common thought of like, well, we just need to throw more people at this problem is not always the solution that we think. And
Yeah. Yeah.
oftentimes we probably do that too late, which rushes the hire, which means that there's more potential for something to go wrong because we haven't like vetted that. So, you know, very much buyer beware around the you know, the staffing side of things. But I suspect if we were to take a survey of makers that have had employees, we would hear a lot of what you're talking about from them.
Yeah. The best advice I got when it came to hiring people is people. Make sure you get the kind of people that you can give a task to and they're going to run with it. Um, without needing to be handheld the whole time.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, I'm not great at it.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to hire people, there are resources out there that are going to help you get the right information that you need.
Yeah.
So yeah, we in 2018 we decided to expand big time. We run a lean ship. It's me and Britt and our cats in our basement.
What do the
It's very lean here.
what do the cats do?
Was that the cats?
Yeah.
They're really just here to look cute. That's all they. When
Oh,
I'm working, I look over
mascots.
the cat,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh, that's a cute cat." I pet his head,
Yeah, yeah.
and I feel a little bit better.
There's
That's really
value
nice.
in that. Okay, good. All right. Sorry.
Yeah. We don't pay them much either, though. It's an even exchange.
Oh, nice. Mutually beneficial.
um, so we decided to make this heap. We rented a big space here in Seattle, which was expensive. We hired a couple of people, which was expensive. We had a 3-year lease there. And we what we wanted to do was make bigger projects, film more grand videos,
Yeah.
and have a bigger presence on YouTube. We put a ton of effort into YouTube. We were filming a new video every single week. And Brittany and I did the videos. So we spent most of our time filming. Brittany does the editing.
Mm-hmm.
We had my friend Everett, who was working for us. He was kind of running the operations behind the scene. And then we had my friend Paige, who was kind of like the social media assistant. She was posting stuff. She was answering comments, that sort of thing. And it was great to have for a while, but it just wasn't where we were pretty much just breaking even for a couple of years.
Yeah.
To keep it going. Once a global pandemic. We still had a year left on our lease, and that kind of goofed up everything.
All right, that. Yeah.
Um,
Thanks for bringing that up.
Everett ended up
Yeah.
leaving. Yeah, uh, he ended up leaving under amicable terms. We decided it was best because he was expensive. We decided it was best for him to and his family for him to have a more secure job. So he went off and got hired at Blizzard immediately because he's a rock star.
Yeah.
We kept Paige on for another year or so. But then our lease was up and we decided, well, that was a fun experiment. That was an expensive experiment. We want to go back to the way things were before now. And we're back in our basement. The overhead is low. Our hours are a lot more flexible. And it turns out that that's what we wanted. So yeah, that was a huge expensive learning experience for us. But we're in a happier place now, and we realized it took all of that. One thing I do, I don't know if you're the same way, Pooch, but I have to learn everything the hard way. It's just how I roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got it. If I have an idea in my head, I have to see it big old thing, and it really didn't work out for us. And we learned a lot about ourselves along the way.
You know,
so now the way things are now in our shop, we have our YouTube videos that we make. We have our books that we sell. The videos really exist to support the products that we sell. And we get to build whatever we want at pretty much whatever pace that we want. And it turns out that's what makes me happy. Like I said, I got to spend this week listening to ska music, making a space gun in Fusion 360. And it turns out that's what I wanted to do, at least for now.
You know what? And that, my friend, is winning. And I have to say, this is
Mhm.
one of the things that I find to be most endearing about all the interactions I've had with you and Britt is that you just have a good, sensible head on your shoulders, and you are the best articulation I've come across so far of, well, we tried that and we're moving on. What is right for you at certain points in your life is variable, and we go through
Oh yeah.
seasons and all this stuff, and that's okay. I think one of the challenges in this current, day and age and environment of like social media and YouTubing and all this stuff is like there's just like we want to show the world like we're under this microscope, and people see, and we want to show off that we're growing and we're succeeding, and like the metrics that we use for that are kind of backwards, right? Like the things we're talking about, it's like, oh, we got to have a bigger place, we got to have more employees, we have like more, and where does that road end? It's not to say that you can't have success with that, but
Hmm.
that's a big animal to grow and to maintain, and
Yeah.
frankly a recipe for burnout a lot of the times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening. We ended up getting super burnt out. We were publishing a 45-minute video every week.
Man.
Every 2 weeks. That's a feature film. That's a lot of
Wow.
video.
I haven't even thought of it like that. That's an interesting
Yeah.
perspective to put in there.
Oh
Content
yeah.
creation,
Yeah.
man. I
I
mean,
thought about it a lot.
I'm sure you have. And listen, you mentioned, you guys do all the editing and stuff. And I'm like, I did a good amount of editing back in the day, like early, like when I was dabbling with early Premiere and Maya and stuff like that. And I realized really quickly, it's like, yeah, it's fun, but man, the amount of hours. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm very, you mentioned like, I'm the same way as you too, where it's like, I have to experience it myself. I have to go through the motions. But I also am like, nah, that cut's not quite right. And then I'll fiddle with it. And I'm spending an entire day or whatever fiddling with ridiculous stuff. Um, I look at creators nowadays, like my good friend Clayton. He's Uncle Jesse for real. And man, that guy can crank out endless amounts of content and repeatedly. And he's done it for years. And I'm like, I don't know how he operates that fast. But he's got a good workflow. So,
Oh, geez.
got to bring you joy.
When I see how much content Evan and Kane are putting out, like they put
Oh
out
my,
so many videos, I'm
Evan and
like,
Kalen.
I gotta reach out to them. I hope they're okay.
But that maybe
Just an
this is
astonishing amount of video.
their journey, and yeah, you're absolutely right. And then when it's your livelihood, it's easy to justify. It's like, hey, I gotta go to work, I gotta get paid. And I hope
Yeah.
you're having some joy.
I
Go
had
ahead.
a moment. We were in our big shop where we were just running at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I had a moment that I remember very clearly now. A friend of mine was in town. We were building my Ghostbusters proton. He he had the molds and so he had done a lot of the work, and we were cranking this thing out,
Okay.
and we built that proton pack in less than a week. We built the proton pack, filmed and edited the video in less than a week. And as we're putting this thing together, he goes, man, we did this fast. It usually takes 6 months. I was like,
Wow.
oh, is that so? Yeah, that was kind of hard to realize. I was like, maybe our pace is.
So
Can I share, by the way,
yeah.
my mom my mom made this mug. This is her Ruth Bader Ginsburg mug. She's a potter,
Wow.
and she's got a little studio, and she's retired. She got a little studio, and she made a bunch of these Ruth Bader Ginsburg mugs when she passed away. When
That's
Ruth RBG passed away.
and that's the descent collar in pottery glaze form
That's right. That's
over
what
the
that is.
over the course
Look
of
at that.
the RBG's quintessential descent collar. Very cool. So obviously you come from a very artistic family and multimedia, and we didn't even get into this, but
You
you have
know
a
it.
this is something near and dear to me because I have identical twins. You are an identical twin, and I have met your brother, and he is an awesome
I
dude
am.
just like you.
He is.
And it is awesome that you guys have
Everyone at Drag
the
got to
bond.
meet him.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
he was a superstar at Dragon Con. A lot of people went up to him to tell him how much they enjoyed his videos.
I'll bet that never gets old. He did a funny little bit too, where
No.
he did an instructional video on how to cosplay as Bill Doran, and it was well done. Go look that
Oh
up
yeah.
if you get a chance. Really funny guy. But it was interesting because it's like you guys are very different in a lot of ways, but it's nice that you guys share your love of cosplay and that and so at least it's an excuse for you guys to get together and do some cool stuff every so often. Yeah. Yeah. Um, Man, Bill, we could go on forever. We've already gone a little bit long.
I
I
know.
I want to devote just a little extra time. You tease. I think we've gotten most of the way through your arc, which is good. And I think this was a good way of kind of doing it. You got kind of
Hmm.
here we are, and we've learned some little nuggets on the way. We're gonna have to have you back at some point because there's just so much meat on this bone.
Sure.
But I'm wondering if you can tell. So this new venture, you said you're leaning more into 3D printing. You're getting more into that, which is cool. You'd said a lot of prop builders are resistant to that. Now it sounds like you're embracing it. Do you have a name for this venture? Where can people find it? What do we
Sure.
got?
Sure. And by the way, the prop making community has fully embraced 3D printing. No one is hesitating anymore, which is exciting for me.
Except for
The new
Beverly.
thing
Get
is not
Beverly.
prop and costume.
Beverly needs to get on board with 3D printing more. Anyway, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 The new thing is not it's not a proper costume thing. What I want to do is I want to make 3D printable kits, the sort of thing where you print all the pieces and you have the experience of putting them together. I love putting together Lego kits or model kits, and that's kind of the experience that we want to deliver.
Okay.
Um, we do have a name for it. We don't have anywhere to follow yet. We got the website and everything. There's nothing there yet, but it's
Okay.
called GizmoThrill. So GizmoThrill, all one word.
GizmoThrill. Okay.
Yeah. And right now we're laying the foundation. We're putting together a bunch of kit. We launch it. We have a bunch of stuff to offer. Um, and the idea is, like I was saying before, we want to have something that is more of a passive income
Yep.
thing, right? And make us having to put stuff in a box or continue to deliver stuff.
Yeah.
So we're designing a campaign. We're probably going to go with printables.com, the Prusa machine
Oh,
or Prusa website for
good choice.
sharing files. Uh, like I said, there's no site yet for it, but that's kind of the idea, to have a reoccurring thing where we deliver one of these kits per month, kind of like the way Keto works, where you get a thing in the mail and you get to put it together.
Yeah.
Only this is all just 3D printed. If you have filament and a machine, you can just get the kit and put it together yourself.
You know,
I've got nieces and nephews now who would really love getting a little toy to put together uh, once per month. So
mhm.
that's kind of the experience that we want to deliver. Something that you might have fun putting together with your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been calling this, and this is just something I'm workshopping, but just the term, and maybe somebody else has said this too, but the idea of experiential making, where the,
Yeah.
the make itself is the journey, is the reward. And we've seen some of that in the past, whether it's in the actual building of your 3D printer through, like, you want to learn the process of robotics. That's why I think Prusa has been so successful over the years, gives people an understanding of like what actually goes into the technology. I know I've built many a printer with my kids, and then we've done and then there's just so much amazing high quality content coming out day after day, and more platforms than ever. You mentioned printables, which is a huge one, but obviously we're familiar with others things, and new companies are coming up with their own, and some are successful, some aren't. But as a creator, it's awesome to see that you have these options and have these other funnels for
Mhm.
your content and revenue generation, which is big. Obviously, it makes you guys sustainable. And you showed me some stuff early on, and when we were last together in at Protopasta a couple months ago. Can I talk about the model you were showing
Sure.
off there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah.
I don't know if it was intended to be an homage to Benchy. I think you said that it kind of was, but in the 3D printing space, there's a small model boat that is often used for benchmarking. We call it Benchy, and it is probably the most prolific, most 3D printed thing in the history of 3D printing. I don't know if there's anything else that could compete with that. But you had come up with just such a great boat model that harkens to Benchy, that has all these great little working parts and print and I think you were even employing some print and place stuff and things that really show off the things that a 3D printer can do that you can't fab in any other way.
So there we go. I got a photo of it on my phone
There he
here.
is. Look at that, guys. So if you're tuning in, he's got a picture of it here. What is it called? Do we have a name for it?
Calling it Scooter the tugboat.
Scooter the
I just
Tugboat.
like I grew up boating, sailing boats and everything, so I just really like boats.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's multiple pieces, so you can print each piece in a different color if you want, and then you have the experience of putting them together. There's a little crane on the back with a chain and a little crank to move it. The propeller spins, the tiller
Yeah.
spins, the door opens. I want things to build things that have moving parts, so it's not just static objects. Are all done with it, and I've tested it too. I gave it to my nephews, and they love playing with a little crank.
I loved playing with it, man. It
So
was
that
it was really cool.
yeah.
I,
So
I
that's kind of it's not that will eventually kind of our free meal for people to go check out and play with to see if they want to jump on board with what we're doing.
yeah.
And we have a ton of other ideas like that. Just fun. These are more like desktop sized toys or models. Um, and that's the stuff I want to design. I love replicating stuff, obviously, but I want to experiment with designing my own stuff, especially things with mechanical moving parts.
Yeah.
That gets that's what I think about when I'm trying to fall asleep. I think about designing mechanical things in my head. That's what
I,
that's what lulls me to sleep.
I love it. Yeah, you can only be a cover band for so long before you want to branch out and start writing your own hit
Yeah.
music. And hits they will be, my friend. I will tell you that. You guys really need to go check out. Like I said, if you want a teaser of things to come, you can go see kind of some of their past work on punishprops.com. Obviously, I expect fully that we will, when you are ready with this new GizmoThrill venture, whatever we can do to help shine a light on that, of course. And but you guys have quite a rich history of top quality stuff and a good name to rely upon. So I have no doubt that you'll be successful no matter where you go with it. And I'm glad to hear that it's sustainable and bringing you joy at the same time. I
That's the goal.
I think that's a great place to close for today. Bill, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy dude, and I love this. I guess I want to leave you with one last question, too, because you mentioned you did a
All
podcast
right.
for a while.
It did.
What eventually led you away from it? Was just the time commitment? Were you not getting joy out of it anymore? Like, what made the
When
pod
we
run its course?
when we moved into that big shop, live streaming was just we didn't have time for it, and it was
Yeah.
the first thing to cut. So
Yeah.
it's really what it was. It was just a time thing.
Interesting.
You can't do you can't do
You
all the
can't,
stuff how you want to do all the stuff.
I know, do
There's
all
so
the
much cool
stuff.
stuff to do, but you can't do it all.
Yeah, yeah. You're. I think you got a good head on your shoulders. You got to be a little selective about it, but I think you're also smart about finding those things that you create your own sales funnels and your ability to
Mhm.
brand yourself too, right? And so I think there's value in having your face out there in front of people, in combination with the talent of the stuff that you make. But you got to pick and choose, like you said. So I look forward to seeing more from what the both of you have to. Offer. Thank you for joining us again. If you've stayed with us this long, thank you so much for
Thanks for
tuning
having
in.
me.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to seeing you again soon. Obviously, give my best to Britt and some pets to the cats. And I look forward to being up there and hopefully
Will
getting to
do.
do all that myself soon. Thank you guys for tuning in. I wish everybody a happy Friday and weekend, and we encourage you to tune in next Friday. Now, next Friday's special because we're going to be at the East Coast Rap Festival doing a live recording with my good friend Andrew from 3D Gloop. So please be sure to tune into that if I'm not even going to see you there. So until then, look at that. Bill's got his gloop right there. I hope you're glooping all the things together. Shameless
You know it.
plug right there. Bill, you're amazing, brother. Thank you so much. Stay right there. I'm going to sign off of the stream, and then we'll say our
All
private
right.
goodbyes. Everybody, ta-ta. Enjoy your Friday. We'll catch you on the next Maker That Money. Bye-bye. Oh, good question.